Hello everyone, it is Friday, February 26th, and welcome to Esports Playmakers. We are joined today on the virtual desk by Chad Ford, President of Equinox. Chad, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Paul.
Absolutely. And now this is going to feel a little weird to say, but before we begin, I need to give a quick shout out to Equinox, HyperX, Human Mode, and Click Gaming for their continued support of OCU Esports and this show.
Here we go.
Chad, the first question I always ask is about the story and how things kind of came to be. Can you give us a brief history of how you ended up moving into the esports world?
Absolutely, Paul. Without going too far of a rundown, I was born and raised here. And when I say here, I mean Oklahoma City. And for those around in Oklahoma City, I was a little bit further north, outside the realm of Edmond, but I was over there in Deer Creek growing up, back when it was like a small farm ag school. At that point, and just kind of grew through there. Um, And then from there, obviously, did the things, go to college, everything you're supposed to do, check the boxes, cross the T's, dot the I's, and came out of it and ended up going into the oil field. That was something that my dad was in. I was very familiar with it, and it was just something we kind of did here in Oklahoma. Your friends get into it, and the largest companies at that point that were hiring were, Chesapeake, Devon, Sandridge, Continental, things of that nature. So it was just kind of a natural fit, and downtown just hadn't really taken off in Oklahoma the way it has over the last 15 years. You got to remember, I was coming out of college in 2007. But anyway, came out of college, got into the oil and gas field, did pretty well on that. Had an interesting 10 years in that, thrived often, and ended up getting lucky there at the end. Me and a couple partners had created a company that became extremely sizable in value, and we were able to exit that opportunity in 2016. And from there, it kind of, I didn't want to get back in oil and gas. It's a specialty, I will tell you. And I had went hard and pretty hard in that, so much that I didn't really like it anymore. Um, so it took me a couple of years, but ended up getting out of that endeavor and was searching for what I wanted to do next in life. And probably since 2016, 2015, anytime me and the wife were kind of together, I mean, I was all about these esports companies and their growth and what they were doing and how they were being such trendsetters. And, here in a conservative state of Oklahoma, I was always the one that, like, parents really need to understand, what type of train's coming down the tracks, because it is coming, and it's not one you're going to fight, and it's not one you're going to get out of the way. And you just really need to understand and accept it and use it as a tool, instead of thinking it's the worst thing since sliced bread all the time. And so, having said that, and having you know searching for my next thing in life, and it had always piqued my interest, my wife just finally said, basically, do your business or get off the pot at this point. And so it was from there that we decided, I was really going through a transitional phase in my life of becoming a dad for the first time. And I now have three under the age of four. So that's mildly terrifying. I don't know what's harder, running the businesses or, those kids sometimes. But, a credit to my wife. If she wasn't around, I wouldn't be able to make it most days. But she really pushed for me to kind of set along that path, and so we've kind of forged that path. And I want to say about 2018, 2019 was a ton of research into the different aspects of esports and kind of breaking it down, because you go from something that you hope and expect it to kind of be your lifeline, and kind of what you've got out there and how it puts food on the table and all that. But it can't just be, three guys sitting around playing video games. You're not playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater anymore at this point. And you really have to be innovative and in tune with what that younger generation is doing and getting into. And so we set off. Officially we launched in October of 2020, at the peak end of COVID, but I've pretty much in my mind had this thing launched since about 2017 on. And so now it's just being about understanding where it's at. So we may be an infant right now, but we look to grow it here more in the future. We've got some exciting stuff kind of happening downtown on the river. We're finally opening up our Knox Performance Academy here at our physical location over there on, basically call it Memorial and MacArthur, just off the turnpike here. And so we've got some momentum heading into 2021. I'm pretty bullish on, and I'm excited to finally come out of this, for one, the winter, and the immediate, but also two, just COVID related matters. Like it seems to me a lot of, I don't want to downplay it at all, but a lot of talk seems to be starting to download, and the numbers are kind of falling off a cliff, and the vaccine getting rolled out. It has a lot of optimism out there, and it's, a lot of people are optimistic about the economy and just moving forward in 2021 now. So excited to where it's at, and we'll see how it goes. But we're being I guess, tactical and optimistic right now.
Nimble. Nimble is
Yes,
the word that I keep hearing thrown
agile.
around. Yeah. Um, that's awesome to hear. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the differences between the industries? I know you said you've worked in both kind of the oil and gas
Yeah.
world and also esports. Is there like a one glaring huge difference that you think you've noticed between the two?
I was actually just talking about this kind of last night. Because obviously in Oklahoma City, you're talking about esports as a industry that's not very known. And the biggest difference I find right now in esports is the growth side on the intangible assets. You're talking about your branding that's seen. You're talking about your content you're putting out. You're talking about viewership and numbers and all that good stuff. Um, that you hope you put tangible hours, tangible love, tangible passion behind, and that grows into intangible numbers that you can't put a price number on. 15,000 viewers for the Valorant Champion Store, and being seen on the national stage of being a top 15 team in North America in Valorant and things like that, to where what I traditionally come from, and what most traditional businesses are tangible assets.
Yeah.
And how do you grow tangible assets and be able to sell them? For instance, if you're a diamond company, you got to have diamonds. You can't just talk about them and fill orders and not have anything there. You got to send out the diamonds. And that's kind of the differences right now with Equinox. There's a tangible piece and an intangible piece, and the tangible is the Knox Performance Academy, the arena that we're putting up downtown, getting hours in, getting kids through camps, getting kids coaching, things like that. But the growth opportunity and the growth side of it is not just like an hourly. It's an intangible benefit that hopefully you grow into a brand of, you shoot for the moon, and you're looking at 100 Thieves, you're looking at Cloud9, you're looking at those type organizations, TSM and things of that nature, to try and emulate and be like. But those are all intangible growth options. It's all about customer service and getting the eyeballs on the screen.
This is just kind of a personal curiosity thing. Is there one esports org that you guys hold as like the shining beacon of this is what brand management should look like?
Not necessarily, because there's different levels of success, and if we're just strictly talking monetarily, which I sit there, and there is actually a moral compass in me about this whole brand with Equinox, where I sit there and go, look, I want it to be the light and the dark, the 50% balance. I don't want it to be like 100 Thieves, where you've got just streaming content, but it's marketed in an older. They're kind of like the bad boy of esports, so to speak, right? And it's, look, the girls in high school fall in love with the bad boys, and I totally get that. We're not necessarily trying to be like that, and frankly, I just don't want to try to be that. We're Midwest. I'm not saying we're conservative by any means or stretch of the imagination, but our company as a whole, for us to survive here in the Midwest, we have to be more strategic about conservative values, because a big part of our tangible money that walks through the door is based on the local economy.
Hmm.
And so what Equinox is all about is, again, being the balance, but we want to educate parents, teachers, kids, adults, fathers, mothers, about what esports is about. It's about, teamwork, continuity, skill building, just positive things, to where everybody else is looking at the negative things, right? Oh, it's violence. They're on their screen for too long, and like, I get that. I get that. Like, it's one of those that they have to view esports more as a tool first, than as a particular medium or platform, to put stuff out there. And I would say that 100 Thieves is in a situation, very liberal environment that people know about esports, and it's been around, that they're able to be kind of like that bad boy, so to speak. Um, I don't know if there's one out there that I sit there in my mind and go, I want to emulate that. Um, there's greatness with all of them, and FaZe, 100 Thieves, they're the ones that pop up in their mind because they're most popular. But again, they're the bad boys of esports, right? They're the guys that are being, out there getting buddies and getting, rappers and athletes to buy into their brand, and pop culture scene. And I'm all for it. Where they might, put out content videos where they're getting drunk, they're drinking, they're at a bowling alley, whatever the case may be. I think they're funny and hilarious. That's just not what our brand is about. We might sit there and walk you through content based on, obviously we do the Valorant game guides and whatnot, but you might see us do strategy guides for like Pokemon games or Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, or education of like pop figurines and where the phenomena come from.
So very truly like the 50-50 between casual and education and competitive. So yeah. I guess even like maybe a 33.33. I don't know exactly how to put it.
Yeah, and I don't like to necessarily put it in a box, but you're absolutely right. It's like, I want to introduce the casual fan to basically high-end esports. There's a product, there's a place, there's something for quote unquote leagues that are YMCA, all about furthering the growth of the sport and teaching it. For our teams, I want to focus on competition, and one that we are growing and we're always shooting for the gold and going for it, and we're competing on a national level. And then on the content side, I'm more about education and growth and family, and because video games are going to become a part of everyday life to where you're just trying to raise children, and you need to understand that it is a technological tool to help you. Do we understand as a culture that we could, hey, yeah, we could get the task done and we could go out and be hunters and gatherers all day long, but technology is invented for a reason. It's to make lives easier, and it's to make lives more efficient. And the educational piece, along with competitiveness and the welcomingness that is technology, is one that I want to open up to parents, I guess, by putting the brand out there locally. Nationally, I don't know if we're going to come off as that, because all they're going to see is results in kind of esports tournament and kind of, a few original content items. But right now, locally, I definitely want to be known as an educator in an unknown world for people, parents, kids, and there's different prongs to that too, because we want to, like with the Knox Performance Academy, educating parents and also educating kids and e-athletes about how good they could be. What's it going to take to get up into that upper echelon? Because let's be honest, around here, it's one of those to where you could be your best at the school and think you're hot shit all day, or excuse me, hot all day. Yeah. But in some instance, like when you go on that national brand, it's like, whoo,
big fish in a small pond.
There, yeah. And we around here get that, and it's just not as accepting and openly talked about in the state of Oklahoma. And look, it's going to become a traditional sport, just like your basketball, your baseball, your soccer, and things of that nature. You're going to be playing Valorant, Rocket Man, Smash, Overwatch, just like that. And it's an extracurricular activity, and you have to think of them like that. And so we're trying to teach parents that tool, because it's open for everybody.
It's really interesting. You're almost experiencing the culture differences that the U.S. experiences to Korea, but on a statewide scale of Oklahoma versus, I'd say, probably California having mostly esports infrastructure in the U.S.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's something that I'm sure that you guys struggle with as well. I mean, if you're trying to recruit a kid, esports that's coming from California or New York, that's a different conversation for you than it is from a kid from, John Marshall High School or something, that someone here locally that they're appreciative for the coolness that, oh my gosh, I'm doing something outside the realm in Oklahoma. But they come from California and they see your facility. You got to impress them too, because they probably know a little bit of what about what they're doing and what they're talking about.
Yeah, we had that
Um,
exact conversation actually recently. There was a high school student that was telling me about his parents. He was trying out with us, and then his parents told him to get off, and he just had to get off his PC because he didn't like. They said he used up too much screen time that day, and they didn't understand that he was trying out for like a scholarship opportunity. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's where you have to have the conversation with the parent
Yeah.
and advise them and tell them what's going on, but also with the kid to sit there and go like, man, you knew you had a screen time limit. What were you doing on before you were on the tryout?
Yeah.
Like, if you know the tryout's 2 hours, you only got 3 hours of screen time. Like, all right, something not right. Where's your priorities,
Yeah.
man?
I thought it was a pretty interesting situation to be in. So kind of talking like competitive side, would you say that Equinox currently has like a competitive Valorant rival?
Man, honestly, we're so young. I don't think we have a traditional rival. And the history of the team and the roster is, we came into this spectrum making a splash, and I definitely wanted to have a competitive team outside the gate. And there's different trains of thought of what you're trying to do when you're growing an esports team, and when you're putting a team together. Do you put it together, organically, or you do go out and get fill the roster from somewhere else that's already complete? It's just like in business. You think we're going to grow vertically or we're going to grow horizontally, and what's the best idea for that? And there's no right wrong term for it, but I wanted something out of the chute that, hey, people could speak to, like, just like you, man. If they if you're trying to impress an esports athlete, like, and they're coming for a campus tour, you want to hit them pretty hard, um as opposed to just willy-nilly, we'll get there, like, something. We wanted some momentum, I guess, and it was worth it to me to kind of go out and buy some of that momentum. And we ended up signing a team that was competing as China Win, and they were an unsigned kind of free agent team that was uh they were really doing well on the tier 2 scene and just winning every tier 2 tournament that they can get their hands on. And then we were going to give them the energy and resources to not worry about, whoa, what they were going to do while they were spending 8 hours a day on a computer playing a video game. They were worried about surviving. I get it. Um, and we kind of were able to take that pressure off their plate, and we were able to sign China Win. And I felt they've grown a lot over the time. They're not China Win anymore, they're Equinox, and we know them individually, and that's been fun, and that's been part of the dream kind of setting in there. But yeah, we've when we set out to do kind of Equinox and get a team, I loved the growth potential of Valorant. I had felt, and this isn't a knock on Overwatch or whatnot, but there'd been um some stuff going on behind the scenes that has kind of shifted my momentum on Overwatch as it was. And Riot was putting out, obviously, Valorant, and you had seen what Riot had done from an esports standpoint with League of Legends, and even what they're doing at TFT. That the weird thing about esports is you got to get behind a developer, not only a game too. Like, I talk about all the time with parents, is you got to realize these esports franchises and games move slower than what traditional sports can. It's not like, Dr. Naismith is getting a royalty check every time a basketball game's being played. There's no developer of basketball. It's just people play it a different way. And there's organizations that run it, like the NBA or the NCAA or the NAI and things of that nature. But it's not like they have a total monopolist control over what products kind of being out. Innovation drives that. In esports, it's kind of backwards, right? You've got the developer that's putting out this game that now you have to figure out, well, does the game have staying power? Because obviously, esports is still relatively new. It's a year that's been in the making for 50 years, but esports as a whole, it's pretty new. And there's no one overreaching company or organization that's putting that out there, but you have to be aware of the developer, what their are they going to have staying power too? And then is the game going to have staying power? And I think that's a big thing, and like I said, when we were looking at what to get into, there's obviously some developers out there that are having a harder time with others with different financial issues or gaming issues or sexual harassment issues are a big thing in esports right now too. And so we were betting on Riot that they could navigate the path forward because they've done it with League of Legends, the biggest one out there, so should be, and they want to get into first person shooter. Well, here we go. And I think there was that always, like you talked about, there's always that component that you have to recognize your audience, just like you do. You guys probably aren't allowed to play, Call of Duty too much at the
That's
collegiate
mostly
level.
the high school level. College
Yeah,
is actually
they're
Call of Duty
allowing it.
League's getting bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Okay, well, and that's where we were kind of trying to fit the niche and of just like, Valorant was important to me. One, it was a first person shooter, which is it's a pretty popular genre
Hmm.
of esports game, and it's a tactical. There's mechanics to it. It's 5-on-5, just like basketball and things like that. You can explain it away. Um, but it's also one that they really took the time, energy, and effort that on a conservative basis that hey, it's more of a fun tactical shooter like Fortnite, or it
Yeah.
can be because you can take the blood off and all that, and that's important for Oklahoma. So Valorant shocks enough that it gets people's attention here in Oklahoma, but it's also you can turn the dial down that they're safe enough that the kids are like parents are okay about letting the kids
Be the
do it.
balance.
Be the balance. And so it's we started getting into Valorant, um, and we'll see where that goes. But I am actually pretty bullish on Valorant and Riot right now. We've seen so many free agents just pop off from CS:GO that I don't know if they're just getting burnt out on the game and want to try something new, or they're following the dollars. My guess is that esports is still evolving enough that no one's one game specific, and those skills translate to different ones. And people reinvent themselves every
Yeah.
4 or 5 years, and I think that's really cool for players. You're not. I don't think you're going to have this situation anymore with Gen Z and millennials that are, oh, they've been a company man for 45 years, and old Ronald's worked at KPMG accounting firm for 45. That's just not going to happen. That's not the way the world works anymore. Yes, a career now is 7 to 10 years,
Mhm.
and it's just the nature of the beast, and that's the way the world functions now. But people are taking skill sets they learn from other places and applying them to their new jobs and careers, and I think that's what you're seeing in the CS:GO Valorant scene right now.
Well, kind of talking back towards that education side, can you kind of talk about I think you've mentioned that the goal of the Knox Performance Academy is to educate kind of the local area. Kind of like investing in the infrastructure. Are you planning on or is there like an end goal of Oklahoma is now educated in esports, now we can do this?
There is. I talk about that all the time, and honestly, I do a poor job of keeping that internally from like my some of my employees over here because I love what I do in a sense of I'm allowed to be a visionary and look 5 to 10 years in the future.
Mhm.
But they're always trying to put things together behind the scenes that are in the now to where I'm in the future, and they don't always coincide. They don't always line up, and so I just I send out my love to the guys over here at Equinox because sometimes I'm just going off on a tangent, but I definitely do. And the end goal for me is, the education piece that you'll see us put out in the 3-year plan, basically of trying to educate. But the end goal is franchising here in Oklahoma and franchising for competitive teams. And I think you do have to do that, and you're going to have to work with the city of getting an arena and getting I guess you would say you've got to build the fantasism, right? Like the fans have to be out there. Like the
Mhm.
Oklahoma City Thunder, you know, I bet they spend, 3/4 of their operating budget on marketing to get people out there and get there to education of getting people excited about the Thunder. It's like you understand that they're not sitting there just doing all these, Goodwill or Make a Wish foundations or opening book centers or whatnot. They're doing that to drive interest and into the sport and the team. I mean, they're understanding, like, I don't want to take anything away from them. They're doing goodwill gestures, which is great and it's awesome. But their ultimate goal at the end is to get you to buy season tickets or get you to put your eyeballs on the screen and watch them,
Mm.
and get interpersonal with the players, so you have a rooted vested interest in them. So it's one of those that, like, the education piece is up front, but they never had to do it because, well, that's everybody knows basketball. Well, that's why the Thunder costs so much, though,
Yeah.
because it is a known commodity. Esports, it's one of those that you are going to have to hold the hand of parents public because it is something new for them. Because Paul, I mean, I'm the one. Most of the time, the parents that we're dealing with are a little bit older than me. I'm 37 years old, and the kids that we're targeting, obviously, is probably above that 12 year range. You're looking for 12 to 18 and on.
Mm.
And that's where the casual piece and the precision competition piece, like, I want it casual enough for you and I to go in there and we're playing, having fun. But I also want it competitive enough that these, 12 to 18-year-old kids are performing at their best and getting championships as well. And that's where you tie it in, is having that casual fan have a vested rooting interest in your players and your team and the competitive side. Because uh, it's not other athlete. We've gotten to a point in esports where a lot of the watching is a lot of just other competitors and other watchers of that, to where if you're sitting at home on your couch watching the Thunder or the New York Knicks or the Brooklyn Nets, that's as casual fans.
Yeah.
Like, you're sitting there, you've played the game before, but you're now rooting for whatever interest, and you're rooting to see it done at the highest level. Um, and so you have to get those casual fans outside of the other competitors that are watching esports right now. And I know there's some, but it's not astronomical
Mm.
as, the casual fan that needs to be educated.
It's very fair. Kind of with this education movement, are you guys going to be incorporating a physical plan with the boathouse, as or will that be like a separate piece?
Yeah, so we've talked about that, and if I understand your question correctly, I think we've talked in the past about what we want to coordinate with different camps and whatnot with players, coaches, and
Mm.
we want parents to understand Equinox. It's when light and the day are equal, that you need to have physical activity just as much as you have your mental activity. And
Mm.
so, yes, when I say esports athletes are athletes, like, yes, you need to exercise, you
Yeah.
need that mental force of it. And we're going through that now, to where you see these bigger sports leagues are understanding that you need to have the balance. Like, for instance, the NFL and the NBA and the MLB are going through huge thing now, to where they're investing in their players' mental health as well, because it's it's totally, to get more well-rounded players, you need to be on your best. You're going to have burnout. Your body needs to be at its physical peak to perform mentally the way you want to. Um, I look at it just like I do in golf. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, it's not like golf was an athletic sport, right? It was more of an activity that I'm really good at.
Yeah.
And casual fans watched because they could perform it and they can do it. Um, but now, if you look at golf, it's gotten to a point where most of the guys out there on tour are peak athletes as well. They're understanding that being peak physically actually had a direct effect on performance. And so now golf, another mentally head case sport, they're going and getting mental fitness as well, along with the physical fitness. So it's how things evolve. And I know right now you might not think that playing a video game, you need to be at your peak physical and mental best to do. Well, it's just like any other. Be the, if you want your very best put foot forward, you're going to have to be at your best physically. I always sit there and go, like, if I want to go get better at golf, I probably need to go get in better shape. People don't realize that. They think, oh no, I just need to cut down the strings. I need to, the swings. I need to spend a couple more, uh, you know, nights on the range, or a couple more nights on the putting green, or maybe you need to lose 15 pounds. I mean, honestly, like it's situations like that to where I look at some guys on our rosters and I'm like, you know, maybe we need to talk about getting a weekly, daily basketball game going on. You know, everybody's seen it, and it's no, I guess, no, I guess underlying surprise that we're revealing to everybody is football players are bigger than esports athletes. Well,
Whoa, shocker.
whoa, shocker. It's what they work out 24/7, you play video games 24/7. Let's meet in the middle. And, like at some point you need to both be doing stuff that's going to help you physically and mentally, just for the sleep and the brain shut off. Like I would think mental health for esports athlete is second to none, just from turning off the brain and turning off everything. But they need physical activity, they need to be tired, they need to have muscle sore, like they need to get to a point, because it is muscle memory. And if their body is at its 90% peak, I'd say that's when it's happiest, and that's when it performs the best it is. It's not always just, oh, we just need to grind more, or we need to, spend 2 hours more a day on the practice sessions. No, you probably need to, lift some barbells, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the well-roundedness. I think it can only help players moving forward. It's really awesome that you guys are working on finding ways to improve outside the game as well. So I have a few rumor mill questions.
Absolutely.
For you. There's a few things that have been kind of floating around. The first off is actually, do you have a release date for Equinox merch? I know fans are looking forward to it.
Man, that's one of those things that, like, hey, I'm even putting on like some merch and whatnot and put it on back there. But it's tough. It's just supply chain right now. Like I think it's one of those things where, when we launched, it was easy enough to launch virtually. And some of our stuff we didn't have physically just yet, like those intangible and tangible assets that I've been talking about. And it's just getting everybody on the same page of, okay, being able to create the site that'll launch with that, being able to have a full updated, because we didn't want to piecemeal it. We didn't want to sit there and say, okay, we build a little portal and send it out on Twitter and, buy 3 or 4 things. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to have a kind of concise area that people could go. And so I would sit there and say the end of March. I'm very optimistic and hopeful that it will be fully launched. You plan for, I'd like it to be the first week of March in 2 weeks, or actually, I guess in a week. But you got to build in some little buffers there. But it's coming. It'll be here for your little spring, kind of springtime.
You heard it here first. You can riot if it doesn't come through. All right.
Yeah. I'll give you a full refund if it doesn't come through.
Second rumor mill question is, Casters kind of set him up to be like your guys' star player. He was super popular with the fans. Can you explain to us what happened to DCOP?
Yeah, absolutely. And that just becomes a product of, every day behind the scenes, what's going on and how everybody's meshing well with the team and the roster. I'll be upfront and honest that the roster, they have gone through so many things mentally. If you think about how they are working and approaching, that they've had to have a little bit of not necessarily come to Jesus moments, but just some epiphany type situations in their mind. And so, thinking back to it, those 5 guys that we signed, it was one, they were doing everything they could to get signed. They were winning at all cost and doing these things. And they were always playing optimum positions, even when it probably wasn't in the best interest of them to be playing those positions, let me say. So we came in, see how it was. And it's one of those natural things to where, okay, you sign them and you let them go for, you put them on a leash and you let them go for a little bit and you kind of see what you've got. And then you figure out what you got and you make some changes, make some revisions on the way you want to go. And I can't say anything bad about DCOP. It just, from our stance of an organization and where we needed to go and grow with the roster and getting better, there were some puzzle pieces that just weren't lining up. And I mean, it's like one of those
essentially looking to specialize almost.
No, not necessarily that. I think we were just looking to grow more on the mental health side for kind of for the guys, and just again, like I said, we weren't going to try and smash a square peg in a round hole by any means. And DCOP has been he's been going off with Beast Coast and whatnot, and I love it for him. I wish him all the best, but it just became a situation where it presented itself, and we made a decision, and we wish all parties the best. But I don't think it's anything bad on DCOP's standpoint. It's just, these things go on all the time, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, he was, you know, he was a fan favorite as he was because of some of the things he did on the Valorant screen,
Hmm.
and so to speak. But that's not always what's best for the team. And you know, again, wish him well and go on down the line.
Um, Going on to the next one, there's rumors that Equinox may be looking to pick up like some kind of second roster or signing more Valorant players. You talk to kind of the purpose of that, or are you guys like looking to form a practice team or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes back to education, like we talked about early, and have on the local scene. We'd like to do an academy roster for Valorant, and honestly for some other titles as well.
Mhm.
I think that's going to help us kind of get some background and understand what's going on and how we manage those academy teams into whether you'll probably see us step off into another um, pro title. We're looking at a ton of different things right now. I love what Rocket League's doing, and they've had tremendous growth potential over the past 4 or 5 years. And it fits a niche here in Oklahoma, obviously, that parents are allowing their kids to do. And it's easy to explain. It's soccer with race cars.
Oklahoma loves Rocket League.
Absolutely, absolutely does, and I'm not gonna fight the wind on that. I'm not gonna sit there. Me personally, I don't play Rocket League, but I'm not gonna sit there and fight it. If that's what the market's telling us, that's what we should do, and we should get into it. I'm not gonna force League of Legends down Oklahoma's throat. They just don't play it. They don't watch it. They don't play it. It's simple as that. And so, um, it's just one of those, we want to be education first and understand with our academy teams, and then use them as a help for us on the business side on where we can navigate. I would love to get into all titles, but we all know that it takes time, energy, and effort to get into a particular title. And I never want to be an organization that just, oh, we sign players we never see, and they're on your roster, but they do nothing else. I want to sign, cross promotional players that they want to be on YouTube, they want to be on Twitch, they want to help us out outside of just winning a title. And we want to help them grow as a person, because we ultimately understand that this, their esports career as an e-athlete is short and sweet. I mean,
Mhm.
there's like you're not seeing a whole lot of players that play for 10 years. Not yet. You might see that as the age group gets younger, but it's still looking like, peak physical and peak mental. We talk about that all the time. You talked about physicality and mental. Well, if you're at your peak physically, Tom Brady, i.e., he can still play quarterback at the age of 43. If you're not, maybe you stop at 35.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. And it's the same thing with esports athletes. I think at some point their physical skills diminish more than their mental skills diminish. And they're not able to, move the wrist, click the mouse pad or excuse me, the keyboard as fast as they were normally do. And I think with a little conditioning, you can see that push a couple years as it is. But yeah, we're trying to help translate them into the roles of, helping being a coach, being a YouTube coach, being helping around with the facility, and running tournaments, and being an organizer on brand development and marketing. And there's so many different jobs in the esports community and atmosphere that they can be part of it. They don't have to feel that, oh, my career's over. Now what do I do? You know.
So looking to develop players beyond competitive as well.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I still run this as a business, and I've got to educate the public on it so they bring their kids back and bring themselves back to learn the new game and to play on those programming nights when you have like a Fortnite Friday, or you have a, League of Legends Thursday, or Rocket League Wednesday, whatever the case may be. You've got to educate them on it and what game they're playing, and have that, you want the kid to teach the parent. about that, because that provides that parent connection to them, and that's what these parents are looking for, which is a fun little time for them.
Well, in the interest of time, that is a great, I think, heartwarming note to end on. Do you happen to have anything you'd like to plug?
No, I'm not going to do a shameless plug at all. Come to Chalk, eat more food. That's fine. But no, nothing at all.
Okay.
I appreciate you having me on today, Paul, and I wish the best for OCU and all its esports endeavors.
All right, well, you can find a link to Chalk's address and how to order them off of them from DoorDash or whatever app they might be able to use down in the description. This has been Esports Playmakers episode 8. Remember to subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.